All right, Ron Goodall, FightHype.com. I'm here with Edward Vazquez, who makes his ring return on May 4th on Cinco de Mayo at the T-Mobile Arena on ESPN, where he makes his attempt for the WBO World Featherweight title against Rafael Espinosa. Um, First and foremost, how excited are you to get this opportunity to fight on a big card, as a co-main support in a championship fight against Naoya anyway? Just tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, man, it's a dream come true. It's a blessing. I've been fighting for, I think going on 23 years now. And so to be in Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena on ESPN for a world title fight is huge, man. It's what fighters like me who have been fighting since I was a kid dream about, it's all, it's all coming to real life, and I just have to stay locked in and go beat this guy and get the world title before I can check it off. But as for now, I got to stay locked in.
Before I get into your opponent, the first time I came across you was, it was this kid that I was covering, and he later became a champion, Raymond Ford. You gave him a fight where a lot of people thought you won the fight, and in a case, I guess, kind of wondering, why that fight never, I guess, materialized, or was there ever an opportunity for you guys to ever fight?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, we were about to fight right before this for when he fought April, was it April 12th or something like that?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so we were gonna fight on that night, and we were just maybe days away from announcing our fight, and for some reason I don't know that what was going on with our teams or with Matchroom or what, but they were kind of dragging their feet in terms of sending me the contract. And so, in the midst of all that, we received another call for, versus for the fight versus Rafael Espinosa, and yeah, like I just hollered at Ray, because me and Ray kind of go back and forth sometimes over social media, and I hollered at Ray and I was like, hey man, like, look, man, I really want to fight you. You want to fight me? We've been going back and forth, but look, like, and at first we're businessmen, and we got to look out for our family. And I was like, and we're in this game for world titles. That's what we're in this for, and that's kind of what I got right now. I got a world title opportunity, and in terms of logistics, everything is better. Like this is gonna be better for me, better for my family, better for my career, and I just hope you understand, and hopefully, later on down the line, if you keep winning, I keep winning, a rematch will be worth more, and we'll be able to make bigger business. And he was in agreement with that, and he was like, good luck, go get that, and I'm rooting for you, that whole thing. And so yeah, like I said, we were definitely going to run that back, and then this opportunity came up, and it's all just a blessing, man. Everything happens exactly the way it's supposed to, and I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah, and I don't think he would be even mad the fact that you took this fight over that fight, which
Yeah.
I know that you've taken tough fights, and it hasn't always went your way, and it's always been debates, even when you fought for a world title against Joe Cordina, it was highly contested then. And so going into the Rafael Espinosa fight, do you feel based off, the things he did against Robisi and him, his type of performances on paper, do you feel like this is going to be your toughest opponent, by date?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I think that he is definitely probably one of the tougher opponents, because all the other guys that I fought are like the top caliber guys I fought, like Ray Ford and Joe Cordina. I feel like those kind of guys are more like boxers. So, they're tough fights, don't get me wrong, but um it's not like they're going to stand there and go to war with you. And I think Espinoza is going to want to go to war, and so it's going to definitely test. I mean, I like to fight that way also. I bring the fight, and so I think it's going to test our wills. It's going to test what we're really truly made of, and I'm going to show them that I'm going to come out on top.
You know, what's interesting, and then I guess I asked this question in a flattering way, is that I'm assuming that a lot of people probably don't want to raise their hand and face you after the type of performances that you've done. And in addition to that, you have a lot of wins, but with those wins, there wasn't a lot of knockouts. So what is that you're capable of kind of getting that type of respect and kind of like keeping them at at bay and not wanting to engage as heavily? take as many chances. When they look at your record, it could be deceiving. But what are you doing specifically that's getting that type of respect?
Well, I think at the end of the day, I just think I have more dog than all these guys. I have more dog, and although the knockouts aren't there, you can ask any of those guys. I can box and I can fight, and I can make you pay for your mistakes, and I can break your will down. And I think that's what you see when I fight these guys. And in terms of not being able to you know or I guess yeah, get these guys to want to fight me is because yeah, like I'm not a world champion yet, and it's kind of too big of a risk for a small reward, and so that's kind of my motivation also going, or one of my sources of motivation going into this fight is once I get this win and go get this world title, I'll be able to get those big fights that I've always wanted versus those top dogs because now I'll have something that they want. For right now, it's like they're like, why would I fight Vasquez if the guy can fight, but he doesn't really bring anything to the table? And I understand. I know how the game is, and they're right. So I have to go get this world title in order to be able to get these guys to to bite on the bait.
Yeah, you're ranked top 10 in two of the sanctioning bodies and kind of describing yourself. You sound like a boogeyman. And I know that when you're a world champion, maybe when fans pit other champions amongst other champions, there might be like a boogeyman of them. But there's been kind of this kind of narrative with fans that kind of feel like Rafael Espinosa might be the boogeyman champion. And then I know that all champions are good fighters and clearly they're all tough fights. But what do you think when you're kind of fighting a guy where some people feel like that's the champion that nobody really brings up or wants to talk about?
I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, I think that he beat Robeisy Ramirez
Mhm.
on a B side. I don't think he was supposed to beat Robeisy, so that's why they gave him that rematch, and then they gave him Chirino in the in between that. Um, but that Chirino fight I think was kind of just like a layup. They were kind of giving Robeisy time to recover before they gave him the rematch. So I don't think that necessarily it's like nobody wants to fight him. I think I mean that just the opportunity hasn't been there for anybody yet. Like I said, that he wasn't supposed to beat Robeisy, so no matter what, they were going to give Robeisy another shot because Top Rank, probably didn't want to didn't want their guy Robeisy going out that way, and they thought maybe he could pull it off because it was a good fight in the first time, and then the second time he just happened to quit. But I don't think that he's a boogeyman. He hasn't fought anybody yet, really. If you look at his record, I mean, he fought Robeisy twice, and those, like I said, it was a good fight the first time. But other than that, I don't think that it's like he's like a boogeyman or anything like that. I just think that the opportunities have probably haven't been there.
hmm Watching those fights with Chirino and Ramirez, do you see holes in his game plan? Not going in details, but is that kind of what gives you the confidence going to this fight that you'll be able
Yeah,
to take him?
yeah, I think I see holes in his game, or yeah, I see holes in his game, and I think that there's a lack of experience, a lack of like, I guess like versatile experience. Like you can have all those wins in Mexico versus and Mexican fighters, they're tough guys, but it's a style type of thing, and you can only learn so much and learn to adapt to so much when you're just stuck in that league. You know what I mean? And you're fighting those kind of opponents all the time. I think even as an amateur, I think he only had 11 amateur fights. And that's not to say that he hasn't learned because he's not a world champion for no reason. He's probably a fast learner, even though he had 11 amateur fights. He's obviously a fast learner. But in terms of being able to adapt and um, it's just something unique in boxing that you kind of have to see these type of different looks in order to be able to adapt. And the fact that he's never fought an American fighter, you know, yes, I've come from Mexican bloodline, Mexican heritage, but I'm an American fighter, and I can box you, or I can, come inside like a Mexican and break you down. And so I think that little switch up there is going to give him trouble. And you saw versus a guy like Ramirez. Ramirez was a little bit more of a mover, and that gave him trouble. And Ramirez didn't apply a whole lot of pressure or anything like that, but he was more of a mover, and just that little switch up there kind of gave him a lot of trouble, and or gave him trouble. So I think yeah, like I said, him not coming outside of Mexico a whole lot is I think is going to be a game changer.
I know fight fans, they're quick to maybe just kind of assume certain fights might be showcases. And if you really go into the depth of the fight, you're a live dog in this fight. And I guess because he beat a gold medalist twice, I guess to ask you, what separates you from a guy who has a gold medal? And I'm not, I guess, saying, comparison is always fair, but the people that look at a guy where he won the gold medal, he was able to beat a guy like Shakur Stevenson, and then here comes you along, gave great fights, arguably debatable fights, could have went either way, but in that context, why are you able to beat this tall, gigantic guy in the division opposed to the gold medalist?
And styles make fights, man.
Mhm.
Styles make fights, and I think that's just it. I don't fight anything like Robeisy Ramirez, and I think intelligence plays it all. Robeisy is a smart guy. You saw it in the first fight. In the second fight, I'm not quite sure. I think it was an elbow or something that kind of got him out of the fight. You don't know what could have happened, but yeah, like I said, styles make fights, man, and it's an intelligence game. And I
Mhm.
think that I'm smarter than these kind of guys, and at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. It's more mental than anything.
Um, you've sparred guys as big as like Frank Martin, right?
Yeah.
And just I guess wanted to get into some of your background work. What was that experience like working with a guy like Frank Martin, who's a little bit bigger than you in size, but was
Yeah.
able to compete pretty well?
Yeah, we sparred a lot. He was here in Dallas, which is probably like 20 minutes from me in Fort Worth. So we sparred a lot. I helped him get ready for is it Jackson Marina or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I helped him get ready for that, and then in between camps and things like that, we sparred maybe over 20 times. We're actually good friends. And yeah, but I've sparred also guys like Rolly who are 140, probably 147. So I sparred big guys, and like at the end of the day, like I said, it's like an intelligence thing. I've been fighting for so long since I was a kid that it, 140, 147, it doesn't matter. These skills they travel up and down, and that's skills pay the bills. That's the old saying in boxing, and it's true. And like I was saying earlier, I think that's going to be the game changer here.
You mentioned you sparred Rolly. I'm assuming because you work at the Solace gym at times too when you go out to Vegas, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I did 2 fights ago. I did my camp there with Salas, and I fought under him as my head coach. And the Joe Cordina fight, we also had camp in Vegas. He wasn't my head coach, but we had camp in Vegas. So, um, yeah, Rolly, was a great guy, and he, treated me well. And he brought me out there for sparring when he fought Pitbull Cruz. So I was out there for like 8 weeks or so, something like that. And we got a lot of good work in. And yeah, man, like I said, I sparred with those pretty big guys.
Similar, just kind of the bookies, they favor Ryan in that fight, kind of like how they favor Rafael Espinosa. Um, do you give Rolly a chance to beat Ryan Garcia? Because I know a lot of fight fans kind of think it's a setup for Devin.
I definitely do. I do give him a chance to to beat Ryan, and I think at the end of the day, with both of those guys, you gotta wait because you don't know what kind of guy you're gonna get. Out of the both of them,
Hmm.
you really don't. I think Rolly's probably more locked in right now because he wants to seize the opportunity. With Ryan, you just kind of never know. It's crazy. I don't know. I don't. So a few people have asked me, and for me, I like Rolly. Rolly's my boy, so I'm gonna go with Rolly. And like I said, he seems more locked in right now. But I don't know. You never know which Rolly you're gonna get. You never know which Ryan you're gonna get. So
Hmm.
these guys kind of know each other on a personal level. They know what to expect, so there probably won't be a whole lot of filling out process. This guy's gonna go right into it. So we'll see. We'll see, man. I don't know.
Awesome. My final question going back to you is kind of a clear setup, right? They have you and Espinosa fighting before Naoya Inoue comes and makes his um, return to America against Cardenas. And there's no surprise that at some point he's going to want to move up in weight. Do you feel that by beating Rafael Espinosa would kind of put your hat in that kind of sweepstake and an opportunity to audition for, which could be
Yeah,
arguably to fight one of the best, if not the best fighter on planet Earth?
yeah, I definitely do think so. I think that he's gonna want to come up to 126 and he's gonna want to test himself. And he's not gonna come up to 126 and fight a contender. He's gonna come to 126 and fight a world champion, right? And I think that with it looking like I don't have a whole lot, or it me not having a whole lot of knockouts or having a lot of knockout power, it looks like on paper, then I think that that'll kind of intrigue him to want to fight someone like me to test his wills at 126. And I'm more than welcome him to 126 without a doubt. I think that that jump from 118 to 122 and then to 126, I think that's a big jump there. Like kind of like I told you earlier about Rafael Espinosa, he weighs 126 on the day of the weigh-in, but on the day of the fight, he's not 126. And I think, same for me. And I think that'll be the difference there. The difference maker is the difference in size. Um, Inoue is he's a smart fighter. Not to say the size plays a big difference because it is a mental game, but I think that jump to 126, I think that'll play a big difference.
I know you have a tall task. Rafael Espinosa is no joke, one of the best fighters in the division. But if you get past him and not looking past him, but if you could just give a tiny preview, if everything works as planned, you and Naoya anyway, how would that fight go?
Oh man, I think that would be a great fight, man. I would love to share the ring with them, and I think I beat I think I beat Inoue Inoue when he makes his way up to 126, without a doubt.
Awesome. Well, look, I really appreciate the time and looking forward to this jam-packed weekend because, you're going to be watching, I'm sure, the fights before yours with Devin and Ryan and Rolly and Tio. And then you got Canelo. And then you top it off on this great fight weekend on Cinco de Mayo on a great card out in Las Vegas, T-Mobile Arena against Rafael Espinosa for the WBO World Featherweight title on ESPN. So, any message you want to tell the fans that's tuning in and be locked in to watch you fight?
It's just just tune in. It's going to be all Mexican shootout, that's for sure.